Hey everybody, so unfortunately this episode had some audio troubles and it's gonna sound admittedly a little rough. As well, we had to cut out our last segment on pandemic gaming, so that was a complete bummer, but the rest of the show I think was salvageable enough to post, so without further ado, here is your semi-regular episode of the Angry Sun Zone.
Hello, and welcome to the Angry Sun Zone. Today, we're going to be talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly. Get your Halos out, because we're going to be talking about the campaign in Halo. We're also going to be talking about the various monsters in Monster Rancher and all things Monster Rancher. And as well, we're going to talk about games that you can play to ease your lockdown woes if you're like us Canadian folk and stuck in an increasingly secure set of rules and laws.
Yeah. Stop the spread, people. Wash your hands.
Vigorously, before touching your controller.
You don't want to get that controller all greasy, do you?
Don't spill any Mountain Dew on it either.
You don't want to make it a COVID roller.
Without further ado, let's kick off.
All right. I'm Santo.
And I'm Sean.
And I'm Alex.
Yeah, so for the last couple weeks, I have been religiously playing a game that I didn't think I was going to play this year until I saw that it was announced a few months ago. And when I say religiously, I mean it's been 2 weeks and I've put 60 hours into it already.
Amazing.
So Monster Rancher 1+2 DX. If you've listened to earlier podcasts, you might know that Monster Rancher 2 is one of my favorite games ever. And the madmen over at Koei Tecmo decided to re-release it. They first released it in Japan as a mobile port, but they decided to bring it over stateside and put it out on PC and Switch, and it's been really crazy because when I played the game originally as a kid, like, nobody I knew about the game at all. So it was kind of like this one insular thing that I was like engaging with. I went on a couple like websites online to look up stuff and found, a tiny community around it, but it wasn't like something that I ever thought of as popular. But now in the age of, Discords and whatnot, I found, and Reddit, I found there's actually, what seems like a decently sized community of people that play Monster Rancher games, and it's been awesome to, connect with people, talk about the game. We streamed a bit of it the other day, and we got raided by some other Monster Rancher streamers, and that was crazy.
I think we got raided by one of the people who started a raid. Brought 25 people, and he's like the admin of a forum in Discord.
It wasn't that guy.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, shout out to Chizmeister and Macho Cheese for raiding their stream.
Macho Cheese. If you're listening, amazing name.
Fantastic. Good get on Twitch with that one. And yeah, so it was super cool to be playing this game that I have so much reverence for, so much nostalgia for, and actually having people to talk to about it. As far as the game itself, it's pretty much a straight re-release. They didn't do all that much to it. They did a little bit of rebalancing, a couple bug fixes, one or two quality of life things, but they didn't do nearly as much as they could have to bring this game to the modern era for sure.
I mean, it still looks and plays like a PS1 game.
Yeah.
For better or worse?
I mean,
Like, I suppose it's something like
I love the look of the game, honestly.
some people I imagine are like, yeah, if you played it originally, then probably you're like, oh yeah, you know, nostalgia for this PS1 aesthetic. But then, see, I never played them, and I'm kind of like, oh man, we've got like some serious graphical glitches like all the time, and I'm like, it's still kind of charming to me because I still grew up playing games in that era. But I imagine that the younger crowd is less enthused.
Perhaps, but like the look of the game has always been awesome. Like all the different monsters have different, you know, color schemes and variations on their model based on what their main breed is and what their sub breed is, and all the monsters have a ton of personality to them in a way that like Pokemon and Digimon never really had. It's like in like the Pokemon monsters... Digimon games, they're just like a, you know, static sprites that convey like stats and stuff and moves and stuff.
And also like each monster feels a bit more unique because of the generation process and the fact that there's so many different, you know, designs for the various monsters as well. Like it feels a bit more like you're making the monster your own than it does with the Pokemon games.
Yeah. Like the most that I make a Pokemon my own is giving it a weird nickname. But
yeah, or maybe like giving it like weird moves that it wouldn't usually have through some strange breeding or something like that.
In Diamond and Pearl, I believe they let you put like custom animations when the Pokemon came out of its ball, and I like spent way too much time doing that. And like putting different like stickers and stuff and making them all themed for my main team.
I do remember that. Yeah, I think they had the same thing in Heart Gold.
Perhaps, yeah.
Yeah, since that was essentially the same engine as Diamond Pearl, I believe.
Yeah, that was awesome. But yeah, like so much personality. Just like the monsters have like, you know, a bunch of different animations for when they're happy, when they're sad, when they're like overjoyed that they won a tournament and stuff, and all these different like sometimes fairly in-depth animations for all the attacks that they use. It's not just, you know, again, Pokemon, as much as I love those games, it's like the sprite, they throw out another sprite, and everything's kind of interchanged between Pokemon. Every water Pokemon can learn Surf, right?
Yeah. You know, the thing is that Monster Rancher, I think on the surface it seems similar, but it's actually a very different game. Like, yeah, in both of them you can collect monsters and, you know, battle them, but it's very different because Pokemon's really basically a JRPG, whereas Monster Rancher is, I don't even know how to categorize it. It's not quite like many other
breeding / simulation.
Games. Yeah.
To use very old genre definitions.
Yeah, it's a bit of a different thing.
It's a different breed.
Yeah. It's not an RPG.
Oh my
God. Even though your monsters level up and learn different moves and stuff, like it doesn't feel like an RPG.
Yeah, you're not really playing any roles.
Yeah, and there isn't much of a story, really.
Not in this one. Monster Rancher 4 has a story, and that, I don't know. I don't know if I want to just go into just like my diatribe about the history of Monster Rancher and all the games and stuff. But yeah, let's just keep it to the re-release for now. Yeah, so this was a re-release of the first game and the second game. I haven't actually touched the first game yet, and I feel like I'm doing things a disservice because I don't know if I'm going to at all, because Monster Rancher 2 is like such a more in-depth game. There's a lot more going on to it. The first game is simpler. It's still great, and for people that are interested in Monster Rancher, I think the first game is actually the best starting off point in the series to play. It really sets the foundation on what those games are in a way that later games can be a bit annoying. Like, for example, in Monster Rancher 2, when we tried generating monsters the first time, when we didn't have any unlocked, it was a huge hassle. We just couldn't get anything.
Yeah.
Right.
Whereas in the first Monster Rancher game, there's a lot less monsters to unlock, and so chances are you're going to put stuff in, and most of the time you're going to get actual monsters from it. And one thing that I do need to bring up, though, is that they did have to make one very major change to these games, and that's how you generate the monsters. And I think they came up with actually a really awesome solution, considering the problem that they had to solve. Because in the original games, you put physical CDs into your PlayStation and generated monsters off of those. And that's awesome, and was like,
super cool.
Yeah, just like, again,
honestly,
hours sitting on the floor in front of my PlayStation.
Yeah, I never really played the games much myself, but I do have some fond memories of just generating monsters using silly discs, audio or DVDs or whatever, and that was a lot of fun. Like that's such a cool concept, and I love
like a video game.
Yeah, I love it when a video game manages to have some sort of like interaction with other physical objects.
Yeah, like linking physical things to your digital experiences is something that I love. Like, there's so many games that I associate just various things with, like music I was listening to at the time, or like anything. Like, I associate sour watermelon slices with X-Men Legend for the GameCube.
Really?
Yeah, that's just like a link that I have because I was really into eating sour watermelon slices at the time I was playing through that game.
Yeah.
Like, I associate with Toblerone with
Totally
Animal Crossing because I got them both at Christmas.
Yeah. I distinctly remember that I brought over either X-Men Legends or X-Men Legends 2, or maybe both, and we just like beat the whole game in like a night.
Good times.
I think we also just like played through almost the entirety of Marvel Ultimate Alliance the same way.
Yeah, probably.
I think I might have been on the on the.
You were.
Alliance
It's on the shelf over there.
Yeah,
I know.
You were the one that bought that one.
Yeah. Classic game.
Yeah. But so they obviously couldn't do CD generation anymore because A, physical media is dead, and B, they released this on the Switch. And mobile ports. I've yet to see a phone with a CD tray on it.
That would be impressive.
Yeah.
I wonder if there is such a thing from like the annals of history of some absolute mad manufacturer. It's like, nah, man, we're gonna take our 80s brick phone or our 90s brick phone, just put a CD tray in.
The most I could see is maybe a phone with a mini disc slot. But CDs are big and they're like round. So I don't understand how you could put that in your pocket.
No. Think about it. It's one of those car phones, right? Phone with a CD tray.
Why doesn't your car just have the CD tray? But yeah, so the solution they came up with was to have a database of CDs where you can search up the album by artist and just find hundreds of thousands of albums. I think they said that they have 600,000 albums in the database, as well as, old PS1 games and stuff. So that is a great solution because it lets you just like easily look up stuff. It lets you just look up, there's a random button too if you want. It makes it so that you're not limited by the physical CDs that you have, because there were certain monsters that I never raised in those older games because I just couldn't generate them if I didn't have the CDs. So yeah, like when I played this game, I was like 10, so I didn't have a music taste at the time. I had to, just rifle around my brother's CD collection. But now I'm an adult, I have an actual music taste.
You have music taste, but no CDs.
Yeah, but I've got, a ton of different albums that I love that it's awesome to be able to generate monsters off of them and just, make those links in my head for all these fun little guys that were taken around.
And sometimes you just get very silly things that are amusing. Like one of my favorites that we've generated so far is there's a song called Diggy Diggy Hole. A Diggy Diggy Hole is a dwarven mining power metal song. And we put that song in, and it generated what looks like a block of dirt.
Yeah, like absolutely perfect.
That's amazing.
Stuff like that's obviously like it's random. They like the. It's very unlikely that they programmed that in, especially because it's kind of a niche song, right?
The original set of rare monsters that are in the game, there's like 1 to 3 rare subbreeds of monsters that are like really crazy looking and usually have like bonus stats or very different stats or bonus techniques. Those were all like programmed in. Like for example, if you put in Dead or Alive, the fighting game, you get Kasumi from that because that was also a game that was made by Tecmo. If you put in Legend by Bob Marley and the Wailers, you get a reggae plant.
Nice.
That's perfect, right?
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, it's been awesome to just revisit this game in a wider sense. There's still like a ton of problems with the game. I think like they could have done a lot more to this game when they re-released it to just make things a bit smoother. There's some quality of life features that I wish they added. Like you need to do certain attacks a certain number of times in battle to unlock more attacks for your monster, but there's no like indicator that shows you how many times you've used the attack, for example. That'd be an awesome thing to see. And just some more information about the status of your monster, because there's a lot of hidden variables that are only shown to you as like a word that's, it's a range between, it might be a range between like the number 0 or the number 50, you don't know. And there's some other things that just make the game really difficult for new players who don't know all the various finicky things about the game. But yeah, it's really, really awesome. And if you're interested in the game, I would strongly suggest picking up this collection and playing around. It's got a lot of online features now too, so you can battle online. Obviously, you can do that in the original game unless you bought a Dex drive and upload your memory card to the internet for people to run tournaments, which I never was able to do because I didn't have a Dex drive, but that sounded like some of the coolest shit. Yeah. And yeah, so like there's even people organizing tournaments now with different requirements. Like there's one that I enter that, you enter in a monster that has a composite stat cap of no higher than 3,500. And there's another one where you need to enter in a monster that has like roughly 300 in every stat. And so people are organizing these cool little tournaments and streaming them, and it's really awesome to see the community lively and connected.
Yeah. Sounds really cool. And it's cool what they did to try and bring as much of the original music CD generating experience into a platform that doesn't have CDs. Although speaking of CDs, although I did not find a phone that had a disk drive, I did find a phone that can be put into a disk drive.
What?
They sell phone holders for cars where the phone holder is supported by being inside a CD drive.
Oh my god.
It sounds like a very stupid design, frankly, but
It's scary.
it does exist. You can put your phone into a disk drive, kind of.
That's insane. That's
So,
Do they make a cup holder that you can put into your CD drive too now?
Ooh.
That feels like it would snap immediately.
Okay, so I tried searching for that, and I just got pictures of people putting their cups in their computer tower CD drive.
Also good.
Which is also, yeah.
Yeah, speaking of CD drives, like I bought a portable DVD drive just so that I could emulate Monster Rancher on my PC and play it on there and actually generate this from it.
Nice.
Because otherwise I have to go around trying to like find freaking like ISO files to use, and those are big.
Yeah. I mean, I still have a CD drive in my tower, although I literally haven't used it in probably 5 years.
I would be shocked if that thing even opened when you press the button at this point.
Oh, I know it opens because I've accidentally hit the button and opened it from time to time.
The whine of the gears.
Well, it's kind of annoying actually because my computer tower has a door. And
Oh.
the CD drive is behind the door, so if I accidentally hit the button to open it,
It's open like a cuckoo
oh,
clock.
no, it gets stuck. It gets stuck on the door, and then I have to open the door, and then the tray comes out, and then I gotta close the tray, and then close the door again.
Oh, okay. Well, how do you just accidentally hit the button if it's behind a door?
That's a good question. Maybe it's cosmic rays. I don't know.
Oh, god damn it.
Pass-through feature. Oh no.
Speaking of cosmic rays,
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of cosmic rays bombarding the Halo in Halo Infinite, which you can explore in Halo Infinite's campaign.
Honestly.
yeah, that finally came out.
Not endlessly. You cannot, in fact, traverse. I was talking with Santo about this. I really wish that a Halo campaign would have a map that like is a ring that you can go fully around a ring in. It would be stupid, but I love it. I really love to see that.
Yeah.
But the map in Halo is not. It does not wrap around.
It is not infinite.
It is not infinite. No.
Shame.
Actually, but mine are spoiler in that you would know this if you probably even looked at the box art, and it happens immediately. But the Halo is broken. The Halo was damaged in the campaign, and so you can't go all the way around it. It broke. Too bad.
You need a flying warthog if you want to do that.
Yes, you need the flying warthog from Back to the Future.
No, from Cursed Halo.
From Cursed Halo, but inspired by Back to the Future.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I've been playing campaign. I haven't completely finished it yet, but I'm in the latter half of the campaign where there's I won't spoil too much, but there's it's sort of got 2 sections, so to speak. And overall, I like it. It definitely feels like a Halo campaign, although I will say that it's an open world-ish kind of thing, which is substantially different from the older campaigns. It's still linear in the sense that the missions are linear, that like there's a sequence of missions that you complete, but there's a lot of side stuff of just finding areas on the map and essentially taking them over. It's got a bit of this. It's almost like what some other fantasy RPGs have done, where there's factions and you sort of take things over for your faction, so to speak, because there's essentially strongholds that begin as an enemy stronghold, and then you take them over, and then once you take over a stronghold, you can usually you get like fast travel options open up that way, and if you take over enough of them, you unlock new stuff that you can drop in. Like the point I'm at in the campaign, like I can spawn a tank if I want, just whenever.
Okay.
And even in the middle of battle?
No.
Okay.
At any fast travel location.
Okay.
Right? And you can as you progress through the campaign, you can spawn guns, you can spawn vehicles, and there's like weapon variants even. There's actually a variant rocket launcher that you can unlock where the rocket launcher tracks.
Oh,
and so it's extremely deadly. But yeah, that's, it requires you to do a lot of side quests essentially to unlock it.
Do they make it clear that you're on the path to unlocking those kinds of things, or is it a surprise and you just happen to find out by?
No, there's if you go into the menus, it shows you the progression of unlocks, and it shows you how many sort of liberation points or whatever they call them you need to unlock certain things. Those weapons, vehicles, soldier types, because there are NPC soldiers as well. that you can have help you, as all Halo games have had.
Yeah.
In the campaign, right? Like you are a super soldier, but there's regular soldiers too.
Yeah.
They're fairly useless as usual, unless you fill up an entire Razorback with them, and you have 5 of them with a bunch of nice weapons, and you just roll into the enemy base, and it's hilarious. But what I will say is that I'm not sure if I really like it, because for me at least, when I'm
5 minutes earlier. Yeah, I played the Halo campaign. I like it.
I like it. No, but I like it. But okay, so it's weird, right? It's weird because there's parts of it where, especially on certain missions, where it's very much like a traditional Halo campaign level, and then there's the overworld part.
Yeah.
And honestly, the overworld part is, I've been finding it it's kind of tedious, and I've had to intentionally stop myself from just trying to collect everything, because I have this inclination that I want to collect all the various things, but a lot of the various collection things on the overworld, they're just kind of tedious and boring. It's basically just
fetch quest.
It's not even fetch quest. You're basically just bumbling around trying to run into something, and then when you run into something like the hidden stuff, it's just kind of oh, I found this thing by accident, and now I press E on it, or I just shoot my weapon at it a couple of times, and then now I've completed the thing. It's not very satisfying to actually do. Now the strongholds, those are a bit more fun, because a lot of the optional sort of stronghold things are actual bases that you kind of have to clear out of enemies, and so those are more fun. But I definitely feel like some of them they don't feel as fun as the campaign levels that are a bit more structured. That's the thing about Halo, is that the campaign in Halo has always been one of these things that's sort of made in a way where, especially the Bungie ones, they're very intentional in their layouts of the levels, and they're laid out in a way that there's different strategies you can use, right? You can try to be sneaky and sneak up on the enemy and take them out by isolating them, or you can go in guns blazing if you have a rocket launcher or some stronger weapons, or you can do some vehicles, and you can still do that, but it just feels a little bit more, I don't know, it's kind of samey, and a lot of the strongholds that you take over that are the side quest ones feel kind of uninspired. Visually, they look great, though. That's one thing I'm actually very happy about with the campaign, is that it looks really good. The art direction, I think they did a good job with, keeping the sort of aesthetic of Halo with these kind of metallic, brutalist, metal and concrete brutalist structures that are visually really interesting, and they're not completely overdone. With the remaster of Halo 1, they made some really bad choices on that remaster.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, I've watched. I haven't actually played it, but I've watched footage from it, and there's areas in that game where they were very moody, dark areas where that contributed to the just the atmosphere of the game, and they ruined them because it doesn't have a moody atmosphere anymore. And why would you do that, right? Why would you take this area that's dark and you need to use a flashlight and you can't really see very much, and there's enemies dead that you didn't kill, and you're what's going on here, right? That's such a it's such a break from what was happening before, that it's unsettling, right? In a way that supports the theme of where the story is at that point. And they totally ruined that in the remaster. And although Halo Infinite definitely has a lot of brighter theaters and sort of complicated lighting and fog effects, they mostly do support the atmosphere that it's trying to create.
Right.
I don't think it's as frankly, I think that a well done version of like the Halo 1 campaign would be better, but they did a bad job remastering it. So like the atmosphere is not as good as say like Halo 1, which in my opinion is just still my favorite of the campaigns, but it's still better than I might have expected.
Okay.
Based on some of the other mistakes they made with the multiplayer.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't played the campaign yet, and from what it sounds like you're saying about it, it kind of like cements my fears I had with the whole thing, which is that whenever you add something to a game, there's going to be pros and cons to that. So you added open worldness to the Halo campaign. What did it add versus what did it subtract, and which one of those columns is outweighs the other?
Yeah. See,
Right.
I think like there's parts of it I find really interesting though, because if you think about some of the older Halo campaigns, it kind of makes it makes sense that the whole ring would just be a massive world where you could go and like go back and forth between the areas you visited. Like that makes sense, and it's kind of cool sometimes, but for the most part, it doesn't support like the open worldness. It doesn't support the pacing of the story at all.
Yeah.
Basically, that's my biggest problem with it, is that in Halo, they are able to set mood and they're able to set the atmosphere and the pacing of the campaign and the story, and like have these action sequences and like periods that are more relaxed, and it's all very intentional. And in fact, like I've listened to a lot of the older Bungie development interviews where they were talking about their development of the Halo campaign. And one of the things about Bungie when they were in charge of Halo is that they spent a lot of time with basically involving their developers in the QA.
Right.
And they were very intentional about iterating their levels a lot in response to feedback from people who are playing the game for the first time in order to make it flow well. And in fact, one of the reasons why a lot of the older Halo campaigns feel open, but you don't get lost, is because they really just nailed that style of iteratively working in their level design. And it's one of those things that like it's really obvious on what to do. Just involve developers in the process of getting feedback from new players and getting new testers like constantly throughout your development period, so that the testers don't get like used to the level design and just able to interpret bad level design because they've played the same level too much. Mm-hmm. These are all very they're simple but difficult to pull off.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And Bungie actually did a really good job, and that's why the Halo campaigns feel so good. That's why they feel open without having the player get lost. It's because you are guided in the right direction. And they added a lot of subtle things, like even things that you wouldn't even notice necessarily. Like I remember one thing in the early Halo games that they used was a lot of one-way ledges, like a ledge that you could only fall down but you couldn't get back up. And it's a subtle thing that the player mostly doesn't even notice, but it is an incredibly powerful tool for guiding the player in the correct direction without making them feel forced. It's one of those, and there's other things like this in terms of the aesthetic design of those areas as well, that it makes you feel like, oh, this is the direction I should go. But it makes you feel like you decided that, instead of making it seem like you're just forced down like the only route. And that's a big challenge in level design for a single player story of a shooter, is like making it feel like you could explore anywhere, but you're actually going the correct direction at all times. Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that this campaign it doesn't have that. Although some of the missions have that. Some of the mission levels have that, but they don't. But the open world section just doesn't. The open world section just has waypoint markers that you set on a map.
Yeah.
Which is like, it's fine. And I guess I just don't think that the open world aspect of it adds as much to it as it might add in other games.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's this concept in my mind that the earlier Halo games, like you're saying, it's linear in a way that makes you feel when you're moving forward as though the story is moving forward. With open world, I think the fact that you literally can go in all direction makes the first word that comes into my mind is like radial. And then unless you clearly have defined where you're going next, it really does seem very easy to get lost. It's almost like that. The mental image, in my mind is it's almost like Halo's traditional radar system.
It's not that, and this is the thing with the campaign in the overworld. It's not that you get lost, because you can bring up a map anytime and you can set waypoints and they're on the HUD and everything. So it's not that you're lost. It's just that most of the side quests just feel kind of meaningless. That's the problem that I have with it. Is that I'm doing this additional side quest stuff just to do it, not because it makes sense for me to be doing it. And it's really odd when you're at this point in the campaign, say, where there's like you're in this area that's like behind enemy lines and you're sort of trying to escape after having a bad story beat where you're in danger, and yet you could just totally forget about that and go screw off and do random stuff. And that makes no sense.
Yeah, that's the thing with open world games, is that you can't have a tightly controlled narrative in an open world game. You just can't. You can never give the player a sense of urgency and also let them explore the open world at the same time.
Yeah, it's very odd for the campaign to be attempting to create a sense of urgency when it just isn't urgent from a gameplay perspective at all.
Ludonarrative dissonance, I believe, is what they call that one.
Yeah. That sounds.
Yeah, it's basically a concept where the storytelling of a game and the gameplay of a game are completely at odds with each other. Like this was brought up a lot around the Tomb Raider remake, where Lara Croft is just like gunning down like dozens of people, but then I think there's a sequence where like she needs to like hunt a deer for food, or like just to like get some like skin for like some clothing or whatever, and she's just like feels like super remorseful about doing it, and it's like doesn't really want to do it at all. It's just like, you did just kill 36 people back there. It's a deer. It's just like
yeah, that also like that just kind of sounds out of place in a Tomb Raider game.
You killed a bunch of people from self-defense, and now you have to kill something for your survival basically, and it's just like, oh, that's a bit odd.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, overall, one thing I will say about the campaign though, is like, again, mechanically the campaign's great. I actually really like the way that they've handled the power-ups, because the same power-ups that are common for multiplayer, you can just switch between them at any time. And
AKA, you are always going to use the grappling hook.
Yeah, mostly.
That's the thing. I think a lot of people think that the campaign is awesome. I think they're just blinded by the grappling hook.
The grappling hook's so fun.
The grappling hook looks amazing.
That's the thing. That
I just bloater shit from Risk of
like
Rain.
grappling.
It is really fun.
Yeah, honestly, I love the grappling hook. And one of the things that actually is fun about the open world aspect of the game is that you can just explore this big ass space with a grappling hook. That's really fun. And there's a bunch of mountains. Do the mountains really make sense? No. Are the mountains extremely fun to climb with a grappling hook? Absolutely.
Nice.
Yes, that sounds.
Yeah, and so I think that the campaign is fun mechanically, and also like some of the fact that you have these power-ups available, it does mean that you're a bit overpowered, but there are a lot of sections that are kind of designed around that.
How do they handle fall damage?
There is no fall damage. In fact, there was one section where there's a massive elevator that takes probably 20 seconds, 30 seconds to go from the bottom to the top. And you can drive vehicles on it if you want to bring vehicles up and down this elevator. But you can also just jump off and fall to the bottom. Frankly, it's kind of odd. But yeah,
they used to have fall damage in Halo.
Yeah, there's no fall damage.
I remember, I think it might have been Reach where there was an achievement in this specific level for jumping off this really, really tall thing and assassinating an elite to get around fall damage.
Oh yeah,
like because if you time it right, you'll get into the animation. Obviously, animations they take priority over everything. So
yeah, one thing I did here is that I don't know. I've been playing the campaign on heroic, and so I think if I were to play it on normal, it would definitely be too easy.
Well, heroic is the way the game was meant to be played. That's what it always says in the difficulty selection for Halo. So
yeah. And I found that, for me, someone who's, familiar with FPS games, that Heroic is, it's good. I don't die that often. There's been, a few sections where I've had to really think about it. That's the thing, the thing about Halo is that Halo's always had a linear campaign, but any individual encounter can be handled a variety of ways, depending on what weapons you have. And that's where the interest comes in the Halo campaign, is that depending on what approach you take with the weapons you have, it's a different experience in each section.
People often refer to Halo encounters as combat puzzles.
Yeah, and there's definitely a lot of the story missions still have that kind of feel.
Okay, that's good.
That's the thing. The Halo Infinite campaign basically feels like a regular Halo campaign, except where an older Halo game would have had a cutscene that just shows you getting into a transport and then showing up somewhere else. Now you have to go to the other place on your own on an open world.
Oh, goody.
That's basically what it is. And it's I just don't know if that really... It's fun sometimes, and other times I feel like it doesn't really support... It doesn't support the narrative at all. It has some fun parts about it. But it's kind of strange, and it's really strange to just be walking around this open world and then encountering random grunts. It's why is this grunt alone on his own in the middle of a forest where there are no alien structures? It doesn't make sense. So yeah, I mean, I'm having fun with it, but it's definitely not my favorite Halo campaign by a long shot.
Okay, I'll have to try that.
Yeah, and I think
hopefully,
I'm almost tempted to say that I might have more fun with it if I just ignored all of the side quests and only focused on the story missions.
Yeah, because I heard a really good point about the older Halo campaigns is that the older Halo campaigns were a sequence of 30-second fun, where here's a 30-second fun piece of thing. Okay, you've done that, and here's another 30-second fun piece of thing. You're going from an encounter to driving sequence to another encounter to a big set piece, and they were super duper tight. And obviously, in open world, you can't have that anymore.
Yeah, that's the other thing. A lot of open world games have RPG mechanics, and there's an element of grinding that's necessary in order to level up. This is a first-person shooter. There is no grinding, not really. You do have a bit of an upgrade system where you can upgrade your use abilities. You can upgrade the grappling hook and the shield and stuff like that. And the upgrades are cool, but they don't really make you that much more powerful, so they're completely unnecessary if you're any good at the game.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that I probably would have more fun if I just disregarded all of the weird side quest exploration stuff, because it doesn't really make sense in the narrative, and you don't need to grind to make your character stronger.
Campaign junk food.
I have one more question about the campaign. It's the most important question about any Halo game. It's the thing that everybody cares the most about. How's the story?
It's fine. It's
there.
It's there. It's not awful. It's not great, but
I
it's something.
Buckley's. I've heard, some people say exactly your sentiments like it was there. Some people I've heard didn't like because apparently they just kind of didn't wrap up the threads that were left over from Halo 5 or something like that.
Like I said, I haven't finished it.
But neither
and
of us have played Halo 5.
I haven't finished it, and I also didn't play Halo 5. So I don't know. Honestly, the campaign feels pretty self-contained. It pretty much opens...
That's interesting.
It pretty much opens with, because there's this group, there's basically a subset of the Covenant called the Banished. They are, as you might guess, outcasts from the Covenant, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And they are, at the beginning of the game, basically it just shows that what I presume is the ending of a previous game. But it pretty much shows a setup, and then you're basically just following from that. And then there's some other bullshit with other aliens that get involved partway through because it's a Halo game, and that always happens. But I haven't finished it. It's fine. It's not I've enjoyed some of the prior Halo game campaign stories a bit more, especially the first one, which I think is actually good. The writing in the first game isn't always the best, but the actual structure of the story is very satisfying. The structure of this story is fairly predictable so far, especially since some of it tries to introduce twists, but they're very reminiscent of the twists in older Halo campaigns.
Oh, yeah. Time is a flat circle. Everything repeats itself.
Yeah.
Goes around the ring.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it is what it is. I don't know. The core thing of the Halo campaign, though, where they have interesting combat puzzle style combat, is still there. It's a little bit more spread out, and there's a bunch of other side quest exploration, find the stuff bullshit. But the core of Halo is still there. So I don't know whether the additional new things that have been added. I imagine some people will really enjoy them, and other people like me are kind of
could have used without.
Could have used without.
But it's still Halo.
It's still Halo. Something I've talked about in the past with open world games, though, is if your open world game is not fun to traverse the map, that it's a bad open world game. And it is fun to traverse the map, okay? Because
Halo vehicle physics are a sight to behold.
Because Halo vehicle physics are they're very unique, and a lot of silly,
very diplomatic of you.
A lot of silliness happens with the vehicles, and that's kind of fun. And then the grappling hook's really fun to traverse the map with as well. So traversal of the overworld is fun, and if you are trying to cross a long distance, it has fast travel to get rid of tedium, at least in areas you've already visited, of course. So as an open world game, I think it's good. It fulfills the things I want from an open world game, although there's a lot of open world games that I'm just not that into, because fundamentally I think it's not my favorite way of setting up, especially a single player story. And if you're trying to make a story driven campaign, open world is probably not the best choice.
It's kind of the worst choice.
Yeah.
I've seen roguelikes with better stories than open world games.
Yeah, that
shouldn't happen.
Yeah, that's the thing. A lot of the popular open world games, people enjoy them without being story driven, but this is really trying to be story driven, but there's no real reason to go loot various sections of the map, right? Looting stuff doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So, and leveling up doesn't matter. So why am I exploring all this shit? It's just to increase the numbers of
it's almost like somebody decided this is a trend that people like a lot and we should do it. I didn't think of the consequences.
Yeah. Also, the pop-in's terrible.
Oh, yeah.
The graphical pop-in is the worst I have ever seen in any game, ever. It's really bad. I don't know why it's so bad. Sometimes this game looks worse than Halo 1.
Yeah, you've showed me some screenshots that were rough.
Yeah. I absolutely. But you know what? That's one of those things that is a symptom of the development hell. This game started being made when open world was very hot and trending, and then it got stuck in development hell for quite a while, and it does show in some aspects of the game. Yeah.
Yeah,
Something we didn't really mention when we talked about the infinite multiplayer, but is present in both the multiplayer and the campaign, is that when you die, the ragdolls are hilarious.
Oh, yeah.
Partly that's because the physics engine in this game has problems with collision. And
Yes, it does.
yeah, but with the ragdolls, those collision errors impart lots of weird force to the ragdoll, and it results in some very funny ragdoll deaths. So
A lot of ragdolls getting stuck in geometry and not knowing what to do.
yeah, there's also a lot of geometry that the collision engine doesn't handle in its full rendered geometry. So stairs, for example. The ragdoll just slides downstairs, which is very odd looking, but it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
So whatever. And it does the same. Actually, sometimes you get silly ragdolls on enemies as well, which in the campaign you're popping a lot more enemies than you would in multiplayer, and so you see silly Covenant ragdolls sometimes too.
Nice. So that's Halo.
That's Halo. Yep.
Expect a video in the future on our YouTube channel, where we'll go over our thoughts on a particular map in this game.
Yeah, there's a particular map that we have some opinions about. Yeah, and you know what? Let us know what games you're playing, because hey, we've got an email address, angrysunzone@outlook.com. We got a Twitter @angrysunzone. We got a YouTube channel with some videos, Angry Sunzone. Pretty much everything's just Angry Sunzone.
Yeah.
And
we're Angry Sunzone on Twitch as well.
Oh yeah, Twitch too.
I've been streaming some Monster Rancher. Probably going to continue with that for a few more streams at least, but I definitely want to try setting up a schedule and just saying, okay, every Tuesday, for example, I'm going to be streaming from this time and go from there.
Likewise, I might be streaming a little Noida.
Oh man, yeah, you've done a couple Noida streams, and it's really fun because the viewers can basically just troll you.
Yep.
By
If you've
spawning
ever wanted
in-game
to,
events.
if you've ever wanted to receive more power than you've ever had before, join one of my Noida streams, and you'll be able to inflict good or bad things upon me as I play. Everything from nukes randomly dropping onto my screen to treasure boxes to every enemy in the screen gets upgraded to making me want to throw my keyboard across the screen.
All right, well, I think that's it then.
Yeah. Happy holidays to everybody out there. Stay safe, stay sane,
And we'll see you.
and stay game.
Stay game. Merry Christmas, everyone.